Impossible places. The strangest corners of the Amazon few have ever seen. There is a river in Peru where the water boils. Not because of a volcano. Not because of any geothermal vent visible on the surface. The Shanai Timpishka rises from the earth already hot enough to cook a human hand in seconds. And it flows for 9 kilometers through the jungle as if the planet forgot to cool it down. Animals that fall in die. The eyes go first. Then the flesh, then everything else. The local Ashaninka people have known about it for centuries. They call it the river boiled by the heat of the sun. Scientists dismissed it as a myth until 2011, when geoscientist Andrés Russo finally reached it and proved that the stories were true. But the boiling river is only the beginning. This is not a story about the Amazon you have seen in documentaries. This is not about piranhas or anacondas or the canopy walkways of eco-lodges. This is about the corners of the Amazon that remain invisible even to satellites. The places where the laws of geography, biology, and time seem to bend. The mountains that have never been climbed. The rivers that sing in the dark. The islands where every square meter holds a venomous snake. The valleys where human beings live entirely outside the reach of the modern world. There are 10 of them. And number 1 is a place so remote that the first scientific expedition to reach it happened only 4 years ago. Before we descend into the list, I want to know where you are watching from. What time is it where you are? Drop it in the comments. Let us see how many countries this reaches tonight, because the Amazon touches 9 nations, but the places we are about to visit belong to none of them. The boiling river is real. It is not a hot spring. It is not a geothermal pool. It is a full-sized river, 25 meters wide in places, 6 meters deep, running at temperatures between 45 and 100 degrees Celsius. At its hottest, the water is a rolling, steaming cauldron that stretches for over 6 continuous kilometers. Andrés Russo first heard about it from his grandfather as a child. A river that boils. He spent years trying to find it, navigating maps that did not show it, asking locals who either refused to speak or told him to stay away. When he finally reached it in 2011, he found a river so hot that frogs falling from overhanging branches were cooked before they hit the water. He measured the temperature with a probe. It melted the probe. The source of the heat remains partially mysterious. There is no active volcano nearby. The leading theory is that rainwater seeps through deep faults in the earth, reaches the superheated mantle below, and returns to the surface through the same cracks. A natural geothermal system on a scale almost unheard of outside volcanic regions. But the exact plumbing of the system is still not fully mapped. To the Ashaninka, the river is sacred. They believe it is guarded by a giant serpent spirit, the Yakumama, mother of the waters, who heats the river from within. They do not swim in it. They do not drink from it. They leave offerings on its banks. And for centuries, that was enough to keep the outside world away. The river does not want you here, and it has the temperature to prove it. Imagine a mountain that does not rise from a range. It rises alone, a flat-topped wall of sandstone 2,000 meters high, its summit hidden in clouds that never fully clear. The sides are vertical cliffs. There is no gentle slope, no foothills. The jungle simply ends and the rock begins, and above it a world that has not touched the forest floor in millions of years. These are the Tepuis, tabletop mountains scattered across the Guyana Shield, remnants of an ancient sandstone plateau that once covered the entire region. Erosion carved the rest away. Only these towers remain, and on top of each one, evolution took a different path. Species found on the Tepuis exist nowhere else on Earth. Endemic frogs that have lost the ability to swim. Plants that trap insects in pitchers the size of a human fist. Black fields of peat that absorb sound so completely that the summits feel like a sensory deprivation chamber. The most famous tepui, Mount Roraima, was the inspiration for Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, a novel about dinosaurs surviving on a remote plateau. Doyle was not far off in spirit. The Tepuis are islands in time. In 2016, a team of explorers, including cave biologist Francesco Sauro, rappelled into a crevasse on one of the most remote tepuis. They found a cave system that had never been entered. The walls were lined with opal. The air was still. No human had breathed it before. Some tepuis have never been climbed. Their summits remain unvisited. No one knows what lives there. A mountain that no one has touched. On a planet mapped by satellite. Think about that. There is a territory in western Brazil the size of Austria. It is officially recognized as indigenous land. But within its borders, there are people who do not know that Brazil exists, who have never seen a satellite image, who have never heard an engine. The Vale do Javari is home to the largest concentration of uncontacted tribes on Earth. At least 14 isolated groups live within its 85,000 square kilometers. Some are known only from aerial photographs. Others are known only from footprints found by patrol teams. The Brazilian government maintains a dedicated agency, the FUNAI, whose job is to protect these groups from the outside world. Patrol posts ring the perimeter. Trespassing is illegal. The policy is deliberate isolation. Let them choose contact on their own terms, if ever. But the valley is under constant pressure. Illegal gold miners push deeper every year. Loggers cut roads where there were none. In 2011, a previously unknown tribe was spotted from the air near the border with Peru. They were painted red. They carried bows taller than a man. They looked up at the airplane and did not run. What do they think when they see a metal bird in the sky? What do they think when the trees start falling and the river changes color from sediment dumped upstream? The Vale do Javari is a place where two worlds coexist without understanding each other, and one of them does not even know the other exists. In the late 1970s, as deforestation began to strip the forest cover from the western Brazilian state of Acre, something strange appeared on the satellite images. Perfect circles, squares, octagons, geometric earthworks carved into the red clay, arranged in patterns that could only be seen from above. Over the following decades, archaeologists identified more than 1,500 of these structures. They are called geoglyphs. They were built by pre-Columbian civilizations between 2,000 and 1,000 years ago, and they were completely hidden by the forest until the trees came down. The geoglyphs consist of ditches up to 11 meters wide and 4 meters deep, arranged in precise geometric shapes. They were not defensive. There are no walls. They were not residential. No domestic artifacts have been found inside them. Their purpose remains unknown. Ceremonial gathering sites, astronomical calendars, territorial markers. The evidence is inconclusive. What is certain is that the Amazon was not a pristine wilderness before Europeans arrived. It was a managed landscape. Hundreds of thousands of people lived here. They built roads. They altered the soil. They shaped the earth into patterns that we are only now discovering. How many more geoglyphs lie beneath the remaining forest? How many civilizations are still buried, waiting for the trees to give up their secrets? The Amazon is not empty. It never was. It is full of ghosts. At the mouth of the Catatumbo River, where it empties into Lake Maracaibo in northwestern Venezuela, the sky tears itself apart almost every single night. For up to 300 nights a year, a thunderstorm forms over the same exact spot. It begins at dusk. It lasts up to 9 hours. It produces an average of 28 lightning strikes per minute. At its peak, the sky flashes so continuously that it looks like a fluorescent light flickering overhead. The phenomenon is visible from 400 kilometers away. 16th century sailors called it the Maracaibo Beacon. They used it for navigation. The concentration of lightning here is the highest of any place on Earth. The storm generates an estimated 1,200,000 electrical discharges per year. That is more than the entire United States in a single location. The mechanism is still debated. The leading hypothesis involves a unique combination of warm trade winds from the Caribbean, cold air descending from the Andes, and methane released from the swampy lowlands and the massive oil deposits beneath the lake. Methane is highly flammable. The theory is that it rises, ionizes the air, and creates the perfect conditions for continuous lightning. But no model fully explains why it happens here and nowhere else. In 2010, the lightning stopped. For 6 weeks, the sky was silent. The region fell into darkness. Scientists were baffled. Then, just as suddenly, it returned. The cause of the pause is still unknown. A storm that never leaves, a light that never dies, and a silence that should not exist. At this point, we are only halfway through. And what is coming next is worse, deeper, stranger. If you have not yet subscribed, now is the time. Hit that button. Turn on notifications, because the places we are about to enter are not the kind you find on a map, and number 1 will make everything you have heard so far feel like a warm-up. Number 5, Serra dos Carajás, the Iron Mountain Caves, Brazil. Deep in the southeastern Amazon of Brazil lies the Carajás mountain range, one of the largest mineral provinces on Earth. The soil is rich in iron ore, so rich that the hills are literally rust-colored from the surface. Mining operations have been active here for decades. But beneath the mines, beneath the iron, there is something else. A cave system. Not of limestone like the famous caves of Southeast Asia. These caves are carved directly into iron ore. The walls are dark gray and metallic. The formations are unlike anything found in conventional karst systems. And the water that pools in the deepest chambers is a color that does not belong in nature. Turquoise so vivid it looks dyed. The color comes from dissolved minerals, copper, manganese, iron oxides, suspended in water so acidic that it can corrode metal. The pH in some pools drops below 3. That is battery acid territory. Brazilian speleologists have cataloged more than 4,600 natural cavities in the state of Pará alone, with the highest concentration in the Carajás region. Many of these caves were only discovered in the last decade, during environmental surveys required for mining licenses. Some are so fragile that a single footprint can destroy formations that took millennia to grow. In 2012, the BBC reported on the dilemma. The iron above these caves is worth billions. The caves themselves are irreplaceable scientific treasures. The mining company Vale has had to abandon several extraction plans because the caves beneath were too significant to destroy. A lake that looks like a swimming pool but would dissolve your skin. A cave system that stopped a mining corporation. Under the Iron Mountain, the earth keeps its secrets. Number 4, Ilha da Queimada Grande, Snake Island, Brazil. 35 kilometers off the coast of São Paulo state, there is an island of 110 hectares. It is covered in dense Atlantic forest. It looks beautiful from a distance, and it is one of the most dangerous places on Earth. The island is home to the golden lancehead viper, Bothrops insularis, a pit viper found nowhere else on the planet. When sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age, the population of lancehead snakes that lived on the mainland was stranded on what became Queimada Grande. Isolated for thousands of years, they evolved into a new species, one with venom significantly more potent than its mainland relatives. The golden lancehead's venom is fast-acting, hemotoxic, and capable of liquefying human tissue around the bite site. There is no specific anti-venom widely available. Early accounts claimed the island held 1 snake per square meter, over 400,000 individuals. More recent scientific surveys, conducted between 2002 and 2010, produced a more conservative estimate of 2,000 to 4,000 snakes. Still, that is a density of up to 36 snakes per hectare in some areas. The Brazilian Navy has banned all civilian access to the island. Only authorized researchers with special permits may set foot on it, and even they go with extreme caution. There is a story, possibly legend, possibly true, about the last lighthouse keeper on Queimada Grande. One night, snakes entered his house through the windows. He and his family tried to escape. They did not make it. The lighthouse has been automated ever since. Whether the story is fact or folklore, the message is the same. This island does not want you here, and it has evolved the chemistry to enforce that. In the heart of the Floresta Nacional de Caxiuanã, a protected area in the state of Pará, there is a river that makes sounds no one can fully explain. Local ribeirinhos, river dwellers, have known about it for generations. At night, especially during the dry season, a low-frequency hum rises from the water. It is not the sound of rapids. It is not the sound of animals. It is a deep, resonant vibration that seems to come from beneath the riverbed. Some describe it as a chant. Others say it sounds like the earth itself groaning. Scientists who have visited the site confirm that the sound is real. It has been recorded on sensitive audio equipment. The frequency is too low to be heard clearly by the human ear in some stretches, but it can be felt in the chest, like a subwoofer playing at very low volume. Theories abound. Subterranean gases escaping through fissures in the riverbed. water flowing through underground cavities creating a resonance chamber effect. Microseismic activity too subtle to register on standard earthquake scales. None have been proven. The river does not sing every night. It sings on some nights, without warning, without pattern, and then it stops. A river that hums in the dark, a sound that has no source. In the Amazon, even the water keeps secrets. In the state of Pará, near the city of Monte Alegre, there is a sandstone rock shelter that changed everything we thought we knew about the peopling of the Americas. For decades, the dominant theory held that the first humans to reach the Amazon arrived only about 1,000 years before European contact. The forest was considered too hostile, too dense, too poor in resources for early hunter-gatherers to survive. Then, in the 1990s, archaeologist Anna Roosevelt, great-granddaughter of Theodore Roosevelt, excavated the Caverna de Pedra Pintada. What she found shattered the timeline. The cave contained layers of occupation dating back 11,200 years. Stone tools, charcoal from ancient fires, seeds and fruit remains from plants that were gathered and eaten. And on the walls, painted in red ochre, hundreds of figures, human hands, geometric patterns, animals, scenes of hunting and ritual. The paintings are among the oldest known in the Americas. The cave is remote. Reaching it requires a boat journey up the Amazon River, followed by a hike through dense forest. It is not a tourist destination. It is a pilgrimage for anyone who wants to stand where some of the first Amazonians stood, 11 millennia ago. The Sistine Chapel of the Ancients, some have called it. A gallery of ghosts painted by hands that turned to dust long before the pyramids were built. Before I reveal it, I want you to check that subscribe button. If it is not red yet, fix that. And in the comments, tell me which of these places shocked you the most. We read every single one. Because number one is not like the others. Number one is a place so remote that the first human expedition to document it did not happen until 2022. That is 4 years ago. On a planet with 7 billion people, with satellites overhead, with GPS coordinates for everything, there was still a place no scientist had ever visited. In the far northwest of the Brazilian Amazon, straddling the border with Venezuela, there is a mountain range that appears on maps as a blank green patch. It is called the Serra do Imeri. It is part of the larger Imeri province, a geological formation that stretches across one of the most remote regions on the continent. The mountains rise abruptly from the lowland forest. Their peaks are permanently wrapped in cloud. There are no roads, no trails, no villages. The nearest settlement of any size is days away by boat and foot. The terrain is so difficult that even illegal miners, who have penetrated almost every other corner of the Amazon, have largely stayed out. In 2022, a team of Brazilian scientists from the Instituto Nacional de Pesquisas da Amazônia mounted the first documented scientific expedition to the Imeri Range. They traveled by boat up narrow, uncharted rivers. They hacked through forests that had never been cut. They climbed slopes that had no paths. What they found was a biological treasure trove, species of plants and amphibians that had never been catalogued, microclimates that existed nowhere else, an ecosystem that had evolved in complete isolation, surrounded by 2,000 kilometers of rainforest on all sides. The expedition was brief. The area is vast. Most of the Imeri Range remains unexplored. There are peaks in that range that have never been named, valleys that have never been walked, ridges where the only sound is wind and bird calls that no scientist has recorded. 4 years ago, humans finally set foot there. Before that, the Imeri Mountains were the exclusive territory of the forest itself. And that is the truth that the Amazon still holds. Not a mystery to be solved, not a secret to be uncovered, but a simple, humbling fact. We have not been everywhere. We do not know everything. There are still places on this planet where the first human footprint has not yet been pressed into the soil. The boiling river, the lost Tapuis, the valley of the uncontacted, the earthworks of a vanished civilization, the eternal storm, the iron caves, the island of snakes, the river that sings, the cave of the first Amazonians, and a mountain range that waited until 2022 to receive its first visitors. The Amazon is not a conquered place. It is a place that allows us to visit, on its terms, when it decides. And there are corners of it that have not yet decided. If this journey unsettled you, good. That is the point. The planet is not a theme park. It is a living, breathing, dangerous world, and most of it is still wild. Which of these 10 places terrified you the most? Comment below. Subscribe if you want to go deeper into the impossible places of the Earth. And turn on notifications because the next video will take you somewhere even more forbidden. Somewhere the maps do not show. Somewhere the satellites cannot see. Somewhere the ground itself says, "Do not come here. We will see you there."